Welcome to Connect, Curate, Create, where we're on a journey through the arts and creative industries. I'm your host, Dr. Tim Butcher. If you're anything like me, you love learning about art and creativity. In each episode, I ask artists and creatives how they navigate life, work, and more besides. They generously share their stories and offer invaluable insights that you and I can put into action. As the author of Creative Work Beyond Precarity, I blend my mission to give artists a fair go with my academic smarts, to ask the questions that draw out lessons we can all learn from.
It was a very tough time, and myself and many of the creatives, my creative peers in Lismore, we all stopped creating because for myself, every moment of the day was taken up with cleaning for a year. And the last thing I wanted to do was to create something, but I needed to feel like normal again. I am someone who, if you think of a signwriter, you think, that everything is perfect and planned out and, there's everything's in straight lines, and that's usually my work. But this was kind of a different process of just attacking these boards and letting my body speak as opposed to my brain. And I kind of stopped thinking about it. You can watch a 6-second reel on Instagram and go, oh yeah, that was easy. But watching a 2-minute long video of me talking about how I'm making it, the process of making it, and talking about me experimenting, I think is interesting. Whether anyone watches it or not is a whole different ballgame, but I actually really enjoy making those videos. So,
in this episode, I talk with Gala Jane, a mixed media artist currently based in Melbourne, Victoria. Gala shares with us the different textures of her arts practice and how it's evolving since her creative journey took an unexpected detour following the 2022 Lismore floods. She generously shows us her resilience to map out new paths for her creativity, what she's learning about herself by trying new and interesting approaches to her art, and how she navigates the intersections between her conceptual and commercial practices. Be sure to also check out the show notes for highlights and links that you can use to shape your own journey. If you learned something from this episode, follow us on your favourite podcast app and tell your friends about Connect, Curate, Create. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here in Tassie, as usual, and today I am talking with mixed media artist Gala Jane, who is in Melbourne, Naarm. Gala, welcome.
Hi Tim. How you going? Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm recording on the unceded land of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung and Bunurong Boonwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation, and I'd like to pay my respects to all elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that this land always was and always will be Aboriginal land. So thank you, Tim, for having me.
Absolutely. No problem at all. And thank you for that wonderful acknowledgement. I rarely acknowledge country here on the podcast, but it's always there in writing. But yeah, look, I acknowledge the traditional owners. Where I am right now, it's a special place, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging too. So yeah, look. Let's get into this. We hadn't met until about half an hour ago, and we started chatting, and I've learned so much more than what I'd got from your Instagram activities. But I'd followed you on Insta, and I just thought, this is someone I'd love to talk to. So you're a mixed media artist. And from what I can tell, at the core of that it seems to be something about printmaking, but I'm probably wrong about that. There seems to be so much going on. So perhaps you could tell us, what does mixed media artist mean to you?
Yeah, mixed media artist to me means I can do anything I want, really. So I really, we were talking about it before, but the found object is a really core part of my practice. And that can be something that I find on the street, or something that maybe a word or a phrase that I find throughout my life, or an object or something really that's found that's out of my hands. And then I kind of use any sort of medium to create an object, or not even an object, to create some art out of it. So really, doing mixed media means that I can just kind of dabble and choose what I want to do and have a new little hobby every week and find some new exciting thing to create. It's really great for me because I just don't pigeonhole myself.
No, that's fantastic. Yeah. So let's hone in on this idea of the found object, because I know other artists who do this, but it's not something I do myself. So tell me about that part of the process. That sort of what you sort of said every week a new hobby, but is it that sort of frequency? Is it something you find randomly? Is it, when and where and how, and what is it that then you then do with that?
Yeah, so I think it kind of I've really unpacked the process that I create. I've just started studying my master's, and it's really made me really break down what my practice is and kind of think about how I create rather than just kind of making work. So I had this realization maybe week 4 or 5 of starting my master's that all of my works, the outcome looks so different, but the actual process of making it are all quite the same. So I've realized that I start with this found thing. So this could be me going to the tip shop. Recently I found a world map from the 1960s, and I went, yes, this is what I need. Sometimes it's going, finding something on the street, and maybe it's something in multiples. I really like the multiple, like maybe there's 100 of one thing that I can then turn into something else. Maybe it's a word, a phrase, as I said before, something that somebody said to me that I've really latched onto. And then from there, I kind of use all of these skill sets that I've got in my head, or in, I guess, my body, of things that I can create, techniques I can use to kind of figure out how I can use that found object or thing and turn it into something that has meaning that I want to represent. So that's kind of where I bring in the techniques that I know of printmaking or of sculpture, or I've got a background in signwriting, so I use a lot of signwriting. So there's that kind of, all of those techniques. I'm a very practical person, so anything I want to make, I can sort of build, and then from there, I kind of figure out what am I trying to say with this object. A lot of my work has meaning, so it's kind of start with this object. It goes on to what are the things I want to say. What is the powerful punch that I want to say, and what mediums can I use to produce that? For this map, for example, that I found at the one of the tip shops here, I was looking at this map and then went to the triennial here at NGV and saw Yoko Ono's interactive work where you kind of write letters to your mother. And I went through and read hundreds of these letters that people had written to their mother, and there was all these resounding themes throughout. And one of them was, I hope she's proud. And so I decided, you know what, that's going to be great if I write that. If I signwrite that on this map from 1960s, I hope she's proud. And that was it. That was the end result.
Yeah. So there's this moment when something catches your eye and you're not sure what it means. And so the process of working with that found object to find the meaning for yourself, and then to, it adds a layer of meaning to it. And then I suppose when you put it out into the world, then people can find their own, they can make sense of it themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of, I just want to be thought-provoking.
Yeah. And you do that, I notice, a lot with words. Words seem to be really, and quite expressive words, short, not even sentences, but statements. Would I be right?
Yeah, definitely. have always loved words and the kind of text as an object or as a shape, which I've loved. And when I was doing my undergrad at Southern Cross Uni, I was trying to make this representational work or these paintings that were abstract or kind of trying to figure out how to present something through a non-word idea, I guess. And I was in my studio and started doing some signwriting and creating some beautiful words and thinking, oh, this is just a side job or this is just something else. And one of my teachers walked past and said, what is this? Why? This is art. And I went, no, it's not. He went, yeah, this is art. And I had this realization going, oh, I can use words. Oh.
Okay, so words. Yeah, and the materials that you're working with, I can see a lot of print, I can see paint, but then there's something I found on your website, hand-tufted rugs. And what a great way to really represent words. There's some fascinating stuff there on your website. Tell us about that. What's that all about?
So yeah, the tufted rugs is a really interesting one. So I live in Melbourne now, but for the last 5-6 years, I've been living in Lismore in the Northern Rivers in New South Wales. And I studied art up there. I had my community up there. And unfortunately, in 2022, we were hit with the worst floods on record. I have a house in town. I have my studio right in town, and I had to watch it all go underwater. And seeing every artwork I'd ever made kind of go underwater and having to clean and find my studio again when the water receded and the state that it was in wasn't the nicest thing to go through, really. But I had to spend a year kind of cleaning out my studio and seeing the devastation and everything that was destroyed. It was all my artworks, any kind of tools or materials that I'd had. I was using a lot of found objects at the time, so I had collections of these found objects and these repetitive or these multiple items. I'd found a claw machine, one of those arcade games that I was about to turn into something that was going to be so good. And then kind of coming to that, having to go through my studio that was covered in mud, and I had it was a very tough time, and myself and many of the creatives, my creative peers in Lismore, we all stopped creating because for myself, every moment of the day was taken up with cleaning for a year, and the last thing I wanted to do was to create something, but I needed to feel like normal again, and there wasn't any space to create, and there wasn't my mind couldn't do anything. So I really needed a new medium to work with that was free from the flood, and it was a post-flood thing, It was like something new that didn't have any flood mud on it, and that I could start dabbling into creating again. So I had seen on, Instagram people tufting, and I was like, I reckon I can do that. And I reckon I can do a better job. So I got a few grants to kind of retool and replace some of my tools, because I lost absolutely everything. Every single tool and piece of equipment that I'd had, didn't make it through. So I bought a tufting gun and was like, okay, this is my thing now. And I wanted to incorporate words and kind of make contemporary rugs. I'd seen people on Instagram making kind of cutesy Etsy type rugs. And I was like, no, I want to create contemporary rugs. I want to like say words and make points and, shout it from the treetops. So I think the first rug I made said, "Don't touch." And it was, all about people wanting to touch, but it says not to. And it was bright and pink. And yeah, I was just like, this is fun. This is something new and different, or new for me. And kind of other people weren't really creating these sort of contemporary style rugs at the time. A few people have gotten on board with it now. So, but I'm still going and kind of experimenting with the materials of it. So I've started using like mirrored acrylic and things in the rugs and taking them off the floor and putting them on the wall, and people kind of don't know what to do with them really. So, which I like.
Absolutely. When you've got something, a message to put out there, I was saying before about the how you, for me, your work is striking. It makes me stop. It makes me look. It makes me try to ask, okay, what's going on here? And that's for me is a sign of a great piece of artwork. And so, yeah, for a pink tufted rug to say, wow, I want to know why. Why that's written in carpet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
And I was kind of
cool.
I kept going with the these themes of like icons and words, and I ended up making I had an exhibition in Melbourne last year called Nostalgic Threads, which I absolutely love that title. And it was all about icons from the 90s. And the hero artwork was just a 2 meter or 1 meter square artwork rug. And it just said, "I'm a 90s bitch." And it was like headline. It was great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay. So, and so many people can relate to that, but it says so much about yourself. But so this was something I didn't realize, was that you were previously in Lismore and that awful tragedy, and how that affected you. And so you were on a certain creative path, and then you found yourself having to find a new one. It is the way I would interpret what you've just told me. And so what's this path that you're following now?
Yeah, it's because I had left or finished my undergrad maybe a year or 2 years before the flood hit, and I was working on the momentum of finishing my undergrad, and I had exhibition after exhibition and opportunity, and everybody wanted to do something with me, and I was riding this high for so long, or not for so long, for a year and a half. And we'd come out of COVID, and there was so much trajectory. Everything was looking really good. I had so many opportunities that were coming up, and it just like you said, sent me on a completely different trajectory. It was like, everything's great. I love being an artist. I love my community. Everything is amazing here. And just in the space of a couple of hours, just everything changed. And, pretty much losing a year of like my career and my, life really, has taken a lot, like taken a toll on my career, a toll on my body and my mental health, and like trying to claw my way back from that, I guess, is a bit of a difficult thing. But now I've planted myself in Melbourne for the meantime until I can get back there. It's a whole new world down here, really. But being away from my community up there is quite difficult. Having that, the Northern Rivers is this, like, I'm sure anyone who has ever lived there would be able to attest to this. It's this beautiful, creative community and is so supportive of one another. And there are beautiful opportunities in the area. There are so many things happening in the art scene there. There's ARIs popping up. There's, art spaces. There's studio spaces, and everyone's kind of this like big warm hug up there. And so leaving that community was very hard. But I wanted to, move to the metro area to get a bit of a different perspective and make connections to keep furthering my artistic career. And also, working in the regions is quite hard, and getting opportunities in the metro areas as a regional artist is so much harder than anyone could tell you it is. It's like you don't have anyone there backing you in the metro areas because nobody knows you. So it's like having to, I am such a big advocate for regional artists and metro artists going to the regions to exhibit. It's like there is this huge disconnect between metro versus regional artists, and I just think we need to break down those barriers and advocate for regional artists coming to the metro areas, because it's so hard to get opportunities in the metro areas. And then also once you've got them, to actually get your work here is so expensive and so difficult. And if you don't know anyone in the area, having to where do you get your artwork sent to? Who installs it? It's all of these nitty gritty things that no one talks about. So I'm all for regional artists come to Melbourne. Let me help regional artists.
Yeah, I get it. Yep. And I it's so you've moved to Melbourne for, I guess, many reasons, but seeing that, I asked you about the path, and you talked about leading back eventually, and so there's something that you're trying to do in terms of your own journey of this is actually perhaps, this is something really positive that's come out of a natural disaster, that you've moved to Melbourne to extend your practice, perhaps. And what I'm seeing is that you're doing so many different things. Your latest Instagram posts, I saw you've just completed an installation. Can you tell me about that work? Because that's using some very interesting or different materials again to the rugs, and then there's something that you've posted there that's got me really intrigued. There's some holes in some of the wood, and it's like you actually, I'm going to quote you here, roll with the process and enjoy the ride. Tell me about what's happening there. And and it reflects what you've just been talking about with your experience before moving to Melbourne, I think.
Yeah. So this work that I've just recently installed was part of my assessment work, I guess, for my uni. So it's something I've been working on for the last couple of months, I guess. A bit of a different direction, but still the same process involved. So I have been for a couple of years now working as an installer at some different galleries and institutions, and there's a lot of things that get built and fabricated for installations, and I've started collecting them, that being walls or panels of things, old signage, anything that's kind of like a surface. It's kind of goes hand in hand with being resourceful as an artist, and also not wanting things to go to waste or wanting to reuse things. So a lot of this work is about using different things from galleries, I guess, and incorporating it with this is a very new work, it's still being kind of processed in my brain, but it's a new sort of direction where I'm using text, but in quite an abstract way. So I have these panels, and using these words that some people have said to me as a woman, and aggressive things that people have said to me in the past, and kind of trying to break free of this really methodical, planned out way of working, which I usually do. And I just kind of attacked these panels, these panels of plywood, and like threw paint on them and wrote words on them, and then dug away at them with pliers and keys and kind of different things that could break holes in the plywood, and kind of created this very aesthetically pleasing kind of abstract work that was just me and my aggression getting out on these plywood boards, which was so fun and a completely different process for me. I am someone who, if you think of a sign writer, you think, that everything is perfect and planned out, and, there's everything's in straight lines, and that's usually my work. But this was kind of a different process of just attacking these boards and letting my body speak as opposed to my brain, and I kind of stopped thinking about it. So I installed this with a tufted work that was very kind of perfect and had a mirror on it, so it was reflecting what was going on there. And kind of created these holes in the panels that you could see through and see what was going into. So it's a new direction for me, and I'm very excited to see where it goes. But I'm very excited, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, if you don't mind me saying this, it's your experience in Lismore, just to have all, as you said, the claw, you talked about the claw and this object that you're just about to do some work with, to have something, to have a plan. And when there is so much uncertainty in the world, why not just throw yourself into it and see where your body takes you? I'm all for that embodied experience myself. That's the way I do my photography. I go for a walk and I take my camera, and whatever comes out of that comes out of that. And sometimes nothing comes out of it, and sometimes something incredible comes out of it. And I spend years asking, why on earth did I make that picture? And so that's what you've just described to me is you've just thrown all this stuff together, and in the installation process, you've played with it. You've got your anger out, and there's all these emotions, and so that sounds really, really exciting, really thrilling.
Yeah, and a lot of it is about the installation, and it's I kind of use all of the experience I have as a kind of professional installer to progress my work to the next level, and to know as I'm creating it, how's this going to look when it's in a gallery, or how's this going to look once I put it together. And you really utilizing kind of all of those things that I've learned or that I use in everyday installing in galleries to then work on my own practice. It's like this really symbiotic relationship I'm finding between these two things.
Yeah. Look, I didn't ask you at the beginning about your origin story, but you've just tapped into something. So I see you have another Instagram account, which is Gala Signs and Design. And so is that your installation process or something else again? I really want to interrogate yourself as an installer. So installing artwork in galleries, that was something you were doing before in the Northern Rivers, or something. Tell us more.
Yeah, so installing for artists out there that kind of want something else to do, get into installing. It's so good. I started doing it probably at uni. I've always been very handy, and can build things and use drills and a measuring tape, and can troubleshoot things. And so when I was at uni, I was always putting my hands up to do the installing and work on the small shows we had. And then I got hired by some of the smaller galleries up in the Northern Rivers. So started kind of getting employed by these galleries to work on the installation team. And so I got to start working with the artists and the curators and kind of bringing their ideas to life. And then moved down to Melbourne and got a few jobs at some of the different institutions here. And it's just such an incredible way to get a different look at the art world, because you're kind of working with the artists and understanding their work, but also it's a lot of troubleshooting and going, oh, we've got this, how do we get this kind of strange object on the wall, or how do we get this computer working, or things like that. So, and you get to meet so many different people, and it's like, I'm always I'm bringing in things that I've learned in my art career or my signwriting business or any sort of other businesses, or maybe like I renovated my house once. So it's like things that I've learned from there, I kind of go into how to install works in a gallery. And then because I'm an artist and most installers are artists, we have this other background of how to like handle artworks and be an art handler, and the care and the being precious with these works. So it's like like I absolutely love doing it. It's hard work, but it really kind of gets your mind going and trying to think about it. And then you see it from a professional point of view as an artist. So then you go, oh, okay, oh, this is what my artwork should look like when it goes to a gallery, or this is why I need to have D-rings on the back of it. Oh, this is why I need to label my work with my name. Like, it's all those sort of things. Or, oh, this is, why you as an artist are kind to the installer. It's like, and just kindness throughout everywhere, every process. So it's like, it gives me another look at the art as being a creative from a different angle, and helps my art practice.
Yeah. I've learned a lot from being involved in some installations myself at the local RE, and when I was on the board, and look, it was really powerful. And I like you, I come from quite a practical background, like understanding basic mechanics, and you use this screw for this to screw into this type of wall, and it's that sort of thing, right? And so one particular moment that really struck me was an artist coming in the day to install the day before the opening, and saying, well, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this, what are we going to do with it? And okay, we all looked at each other. I said, well, have you thought about this? And then went out to the storeroom, and there's this beautiful storeroom just full of stuff. And
the storeroom.
And it came together. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's the troubleshooting is all part of it, and it's the learning process for me as an artist. Then when I later had a show, is like, okay, I need to think about this, and this. So you're actually bringing that into your latest show in all, this installation now to almost deconstruct it, perhaps to really try to pull it apart and take it in a new direction.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the works is actually me recreating a gallery wall. I realized that behind a gallery wall are like the hundreds and hundreds of layers of paint that go on there. And it's kind of this, like when you see those layers, if you kind of drill into the wall, you can see all the different shows that have happened through these hundreds of layers of paint. And you can see it's like, white, oh, pink, and then white, blue. And you can go, oh, that was that show and like a year ago or something. So I was so fascinated with that. So I tried to recreate that. It's still a kind of work in progress, but I'm interested in diving into that. And I guess the gallery wall, like bringing the gallery wall off it, or like interrogating the gallery wall. Like, what is a white wall? Like, why does it have to be white?
Yeah. absolutely, yeah, and I draw a lot of inspiration from Tom Sachs and his work, and there's a big part of that DIY aesthetic and the bricolage that it's actually showing. He wants to show you how it's made. I forget how he says it now, but it's this thing of, if you see the scars, if you see the screws, the screw heads, and it's all functionally correct, but it's just the aesthetic. It's a certain aesthetic that it's not perfection, and life would be pretty boring if everything was too perfect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, let's go. I did sort of. I do really want to get to. So there's another part of your practice, which is your sign writing, and the reason for my interest is if I could do it all over again, if I could go back 40 odd years, I would want to be doing that job that you have made for yourself, sign writing. I don't think I have the skills for it, but if I had the time, I would learn. So tell us about that business that you run, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of came hand in hand with when I was in my undergrad, kind of when I decided I wanted to be an artist. So did a lot of workshops and a lot of practice, and picked up the mouse stick and the quills, and off I went. And it helped. I worked in the hospitality industry for my whole life, so it kind of goes hand in hand. The chalkboards, the sign painting, all of that. So really started off, just doing the signs for the pubs and the restaurants I was working for, and then kept going and just kept just working on it, and with a bit of the passion. The look of a hand painted sign is something that just vinyl doesn't get. It's just and now I'm just advocating for businesses to spend money on sign painting as opposed to vinyl. But kind of being in Melbourne now, you see how many hand painted signs there are, and it's just, I love seeing it, and just appreciating other artists and other sign painters' work is just incredible.
Yeah. That's that for me. Yeah, Melbourne. I lived in Melbourne 6 years, and with my camera would photograph, signage, it's something that really appeals to me particularly. But as you say, something that's hand painted. And then, but also getting to play with fonts and getting to play with color, and it really resonates for me. That's all I'm going to say. It just, I think it's wonderful. But for you as an artist, Gala, this is what I want to understand: is that intersection between what's art and what's work, so that you can pay the bills and do something that's meaningful to you. So how do you do that? Tell us about how you do that. 'Cause I think that's something I would love to really know, because if I could figure out how to make a living from my photography, I'd quit the podcast right now.
Oh, I wish I had the answers. And I guess I'm still figuring it out, but doing the best that I can at the moment. I think when I started this out, it's a really interesting thing that I don't know if a lot of people talk about these intersections between a commercial practice and a creative or more conceptual thing or practice, and how to keep the money coming in to be able to fund the works that you want to make. So I had kind of my sign writing and this commercial murals and stuff, that sort of thing, all in the one brand. And so in my artistic brand, I guess, and on the one Instagram. And then I had a chat to a really good friend of mine, and she said, I don't think if a gallery looked at your Instagram, they probably don't want to see this like chalkboard menu that you've done for a pub. And then I was like, oh, geez, yeah, I need to separate them. I need some sort of distinction between these two. And now, I created the second brand. And so it's called Gala Signs and Designs. And I was trying to separate the commercial aspect of it. So anything that I sort of got commissioned to, or not even commissioned, but like a business would pay me to do their signs, or maybe they want their logo put up, or maybe they needed a menu design or a website design or their logo design. So anything kind of that aspect of it, I've separated it into this other brand and tried to keep my artistic brand, Gala Jane, as that creative or that more conceptual art that I'd want to put in a gallery. I'm having now, there's so many other intersections, and whether you learn, where do you stop? Like, do you end up with 15 different Instagrams for 15 different sort of things that you're doing? Like, this is what I'm working with at the moment. And, you know, if anyone else has the answer out there, I would love to know it. But, you know, when something isn't so conceptual, or isn't, like, a lot of my work is quite heavy and, you know, about mental health and you know, women's safety. And when I might want to make a work that doesn't conform to that, do I need a different brand? And I guess that leads on to something, you know, we were talking about before, which is my Patreon account. So I went to a workshop, and they were talking about what's it called? They were talking about diversifying your income and having these like different streams of income. Some are passive, some are, you know, a little bit of income here, a little bit of income there. And they mentioned Patreon. And so I kind of did a deep dive and I knew of the platform and knew a few illustrators that used it. So I thought, with my love of printmaking, I should go and do a printmaking Patreon. And my Patreon's been going for maybe a year now. I've got a few patrons, a lot of friends and family, which is great. And it's $10 a month, and it's actually so good because I make one new print every month, and I print it on a postcard, and then I send out to my Patreons 2 postcards. So I'm like, you can keep one, and then you can post one on. And it's actually just like I love having my friends and family on there, because it means that I can share some of my art with them. And a lot of these postcards that I make are actually like just one-offs. They don't have to be so heavy, or, you know, I don't have to be changing the world with this postcard. I'm just trying to make something that looks nice, or I'm experimenting. A lot of it is me experimenting with different print practices. And I'm like, this is a great opportunity. I'll do a run of, you know, 20 postcards and get to send them out to all these people. And then, have this kind of little stream of income to help create more postcards and more experimenting. So really trying to diversify my income in so many ways, and, you know, still figuring it out, and, you know, working in just any job in the arts is part of my diversification of my income.
Yeah. Because what so many artists tell me here on the podcast and in life in general, the one thing that we need more than anything else is time. And so to make time to be making art, to be experimenting, but then, you know, so something like Patreon generates a passive income for you for a relatively small amount of effort. But the interesting thing, what you're doing there is your monthly giveaways, is you're experimenting with those giveaways, which could lead to something more. And that's something that I explored in my book, and how we might sort of find ways to rethink that intersection between what is commercial and what is not. people saying, well, I'm a conceptual artist or I am not a commercial artist. I think in the world we live in today, we need to reach the people who our art can touch. There are various ways in which to do that, but they didn't exist 20 years ago. So let's play around with them, right?
Yeah. And I think, like, I don't know, and using Instagram as a platform, I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with it, but I'm,
don't we all?
trying to, don't we all? But I'm trying to kind of, sometimes I fight it and sometimes I go, no, I'm going to, I will create 10 reels this week. I don't know. And some of them might have 200 views and some of them might have 15,000 views. And I can't break the algorithm. I can't figure it out. The worst reels that I make are the ones that reach what did I get? 24,000 views on something the other day. And I'm like, what? That has nothing to do with anything. So it's like, trying to use these platforms, I guess. And I don't know, there's so much nuance in these platforms and trying to reach other people and figuring out who you want to reach as well, because essentially I just want to reach other artists, but that's not where the money's going to come from. And so I just keep going and hoping for the best. And I really don't mind what happens with my Instagram. I'm just kind of making what I want to make and, enjoying that. So,
yeah, I have this love-hate relationship with Instagram as well. But something like Patreon, I suppose, that's where your true fans are. As you said, family and friends and the people who know how much this means to you. And for, as you say, for a very small donation and people getting something in return that they can treasure. I'm sure the people who have your prints and pass them on, they're real treats. It's not the masses that we're all trying to reach with our art. It's my view, and correct me if this doesn't apply to you, but my perspective on making art is we're looking for what today they would call true fans, the people who want to patronize us because our work means something to them. And so perhaps something like Patreon is trying to achieve that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one because for me, it's I'm trying to hone in on those, as you say, those true fans or those core fans, especially being friends and family that maybe don't have $1,000 to, buy a rug off me, or, they've got enough of my art on the wall. But they are the people that want to support me, and, they are and they're okay to spend $10 a month on their friend or knowing that it's going to a good place. And I think that was what someone said to me at the beginning when looking at Patreon was, they wanted to support somebody where they knew exactly where the money was going, and they knew that the money was going straight to the artist. There was no kind of the gallery gets 30% sort of thing. It was they take a small fee. And on my Patreon, I put on sort of long form videos of how I make the works, which I actually love making, and I actually teach printmaking at TAFE. So I love making these videos and showing people how I'm doing it, because, you can watch a 6-second reel on Instagram and go, oh yeah, that was easy. But watching a 2-minute long video of me talking about how I'm making it, the process of making it, and talking about me experimenting, I think is interesting. Whether anyone watches it or not is a whole different ballgame, but I actually really enjoy making those videos. So yes, people should sign up to my Patreon just to see me talk about how to make prints.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go, everyone. And this is not a paid promotion for Patreon. I should add there are other platforms that you might wish to find your patrons and take them to, or whatever. But look, I think the fundamental point is, look, people want to help you to keep doing the thing that you love because it's meaningful to you and meaningful to them. And however, there are so many more ways to do that, and so many ways that you can really lead the process and really have some control over the process. So it was something that perhaps I interpret from what you said about how the traditional models are still there, but there's a whole range of other ways to really keep your practice moving forward. So. Final segue. So moving forward, you've just done the installation at uni, and you're continuing on with that. You've talked about wanting to get back to the Northern Rivers, and I can understand why. It's a beautiful part of the world. So look, what's on the horizon for you short term, Gala?
I've actually got an exhibition I'm working on that is in September at gallery in Fitzroy North, I think. And it's tufted work, it's rugs, it's all about the questioning kind of where craft and art meet each other. And, tufted works are textiles, traditionally a woman's place. Does that belong in a gallery is often, questioned. And I think there's a lot of artists these days that are really breaking those boundaries, especially like in ceramics and other work sort of mediums like that. Knitting, that sort of thing, putting that on a gallery wall. So really trying to question what people think art is. And so I'm in the middle of making some larger scale tufted rugs for that. And I guess I am just really trying to build up community and find peers, art peers that are kind of, want to be part of the community. So if anyone's in Melbourne, reach out, please. I think that you can't make art on your own. I think you're in a solo vacuum, but it's all about community and your networks. And I spend all my time kind of going to galleries and trying to network with people and doing the awkward, cold walk up to someone and try to talk to them. And it's hard and it's awful. And I'm quite an outgoing person, so I don't know how other people who are not as outgoing as me can do it. So I feel for everybody in the art world. I think that's just so important for our community and our creative team, I guess, in this country and wherever. We're all part of a community. We've got to help each other. So I'm here for my community.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful way to think about it. As you say, there are all these different ways to connect, but how do you find that true sense of community? How do you, I think, again, coming back to the core mission of what this podcast and Connect, Curate, Create is all about is finding ways to do that so that it's not so uncomfortable, so it's not so difficult to do. And look, where can people find you to connect? You've put this call out. What's your Insta handle, or what's the way that you would like people to come and find you? What's the best way?
Yeah, come find me. So Instagram's the best thing, at gala.jane.art. So please reach out. If you're around Melbourne, please tell me what openings you've got. I'm always up for an opening. So let's share opportunities, share, openings. Let's, share everything.
Fantastic. There you go. Gala.jane.art on Instagram. I'll make sure that's also in the show notes, as I always do for everyone. Gala, thank you so much. I've learned an awful lot. I hope other people have. This is just a brilliant episode. And I will definitely connect with you when I get to Melbourne next. Not sure when it's going to be, but as soon as I've booked the flights, I will get in touch, because I'd love to come and see some of your work in person. Thanks for your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tim. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here. What an honor. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect, Curate, Create. I hope you found inspiration and insights that you can apply to your own creative work. For highlights and links, check out the show notes, and be sure to follow us on your favourite podcast player so you never miss an episode. Tune in next time as I continue to explore life and work in the arts.